So thank you guys so much for coming once again. My name is Gina Broadbent, like Julie said. I'm here on behalf of Reef Check Australia for the Gold Coast Green Week. So if you guys haven't checked out all the other awesome events that's going on for the Gold Coast Green Week, I would definitely recommend having a look at their Facebook page. They've got some really cool things going on. I think it's about 10 days. So today we'll be going into having a look to the Gold Coast reefs. Before I get started with anything, I just wanted to do an acknowledgement of country. So in the spirit of reconciliation, Reef Check Australia acknowledges the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea and community. We pay our respect to their elders, past, present and extended, that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples today. So just a couple of topics for today. I'm going to run through who I am, what Reef Check Australia is, reefs in Southeast Queensland and the Gold Coast, some of our survey findings that we found in our 2019-2020 reporting period, and a couple of things that you can do to help save our reefs. Like Julie said, we've got a couple of housekeeping things. So I do have a question. I have allocated some time for questions at the end of the presentation. If you do have a question, feel free to just pop it in the chat function. Usually it's down at the bottom of your Zoom call. You can do that anytime, and Julie and I will discuss those questions at the end of the presentation. And yeah, like we said, if you could just turn all your microphones and cameras off, that would be awesome, just to help with the bandwidth. Thank you. So just a little bit about me. My name is Gina Broadbent. I am 22. I live on the beautiful Sunshine Coast in Queensland, Australia. So not quite the Gold Coast, but nearly there. I am a Reef Check Australia ambassador and volunteer. I'm actually in my last year of studying my environmental science and business management degree, which is really exciting. I also work as an environmental scientist already. I managed to get a job pre-graduation, which is really exciting. I love to free dive, scuba dive and go hiking. And my favorite animal is the manta ray. I do love grey nurse sharks though. I feel like they're kind of tired, but we'll go for manta rays for now. So in 2019, I came back from a marine conservation internship over in Greece. And I came back to Australia feeling really empowered and with all this new education and all of this new knowledge. And I really wanted to do something with it. And I just didn't really know where to start. And so I jumped online and I Googled conservation organisations in Queensland, and I came across Reef Check Australia, which is really cool. I jumped on their ambassador course, which I'll talk to you guys a little bit later on in the presentation of how to do this as well if you were interested. You can see in this first photo here, that's me with a couple of the people who I did the ambassador course with, which was an amazing experience. This was at the end of 2019, and so I've been a volunteer for about a year and a half now, and it's been really awesome. There's a couple of photos of me doing some cool things with the general manager and some really cool volunteers that I've met along the way. For those who don't know who Reef Check Australia is, we are an environmental citizen science organisation, and our main thing is that we believe in protecting our reefs and oceans by empowering people. And this is something that is going to be brought up quite a lot in this presentation, because the people who help us collect all of our research and empower other people are really, really important to us. As well as this, we embrace a really hands-on research approach for research and education. This is to better understand, appreciate and protect our marine resources for the future. With a little summary of Reef Check Australia and Reef Check in general, I won't go into this for too long, but I do want to summarize it just because it's really important to understand where our data comes from and why we collect it. So basically in 1993, a big group of scientists got together and asked a really seemingly simple question, and this is, what is the health of the world's coral reefs? And surprisingly, no one could answer this question. The reason why is because there was no standardized monitoring implemented within the scientific world to be able to collect data that was all done in the same way. And if we did put all of the information that we had together on the health of the reefs, it would be really biased. And so we weren't actually able to come up with an answer of what the health of the world's coral reefs are. 3 years later, Reef Check was launched, and the goal of Reef Check was to create a globally standardized system based on citizen science and to act as an early warning system into any issues of the reef health that we have. And this globally standardized system is really, really important, like I just said, so we can assess reefs on a really large scale, both geographically, and also, over a really large time frame, and be able to come up with that data on the health of the reefs. So Reef Check is actually a global network. We're not just in Australia, which is really awesome. You can see this map. We are in over 90 countries and territories worldwide, and this is the citizen science program. So that's the training and coordination of volunteers in that reef monitoring. It is a United Nations official community of coral reef monitoring network, which is really awesome because we are able to get a really good grasp on the reef health in all of these amazing areas in the world, as you can see by that map. Reef Check Australia started in 2001 and Southeast Queensland in 2007, so it has been going for quite a long time. Now, I just want to touch on citizen science quickly because it's really, really important. I know that I have mentioned it before, and I'm just going to give a little rundown into what it actually is. So it is the public participation and collaboration in scientific research. The goal of Reef Check Australian citizen science is to collect that locally and globally relevant data to build your appreciation, your understanding, and that protection for the reef habitats. The importance of citizen science is amazing. Without citizen science, we wouldn't be able to collect any of the information on scales of time and geography that we are able to do now. It would be impossible. Unfortunately, we require a lot of funding, and it is quite a lot of time in going out into the ocean and collecting this data. And so without our citizens and without our amazing volunteers, we wouldn't be able to do anything that we are presenting to you guys today. I just want to show you guys this really awesome illustration, and it kind of just confirms that what I've been talking about with regards to maintaining that long-term reef health data. So without having it on a long-term scale, we would have no idea how our reef health is and what state it is currently in. So that's just a little reference to the importance of that long-term reef health data that we're collecting. And just to summarize, I guess I've talked a lot about the Reef Check Australia citizen science aspect, but we also do have our aspect of, the education and conservation. So a lot of the education comes through our ambassadors and school programs. So that is, people like me volunteering to do presentations like this and talking to the public about the reef health. And then that really ties in with our conservation. So we're able to apply our data, do some make some behavior change, and we also have a couple of beach cleans up and stuff like that. So everything combined makes Reef Check Australia who we are and what we do today. The ocean is a really huge area to monitor, and we need your help to do that. I will be touching on ways in the end of this presentation on how you can do that, so bear with me for a little bit. Cool, so now that that's over, let's dive deep into the reefs of Southeast Queensland and the Gold Coast. I am going to start with a bit of a general Southeast Queensland region analysis, and then I'll go into a bit more specific within the Gold Coast. So as I mentioned, Reef Check Australia has a heap of survey locations. We actually do have some people on the other side of Australia in Western Australia, which is awesome. But mainly we are up in that northern and southeast Queensland region. So as you can see by the second map, quite a few locations in the southeast Queensland region. This consists of the Sunshine Coast, the Moreton Bay region and the Gold Coast. And then we also have your sites along the Gold Coast, which I will be going into a bit more detail later on. So reefs in Southeast Queensland, I get so excited about this topic because I really think that they're quite underrated and not many people know them as much as the Great Barrier Reef. So hopefully I can educate you guys about this a little bit more today. So obviously they're not as well known as the Great Barrier Reef. That's kind of a given, but they are really beautiful. They are generally a bit more of a rocky reef structure. This is especially in the Gold Coast reefs as well. So we do have quite a lot of coral, but in comparison, we do have a lot of that rocky reef structure as well. Something that's really, really special is that they're a transitional area for tropical, subtropical, and temperate species. And this is a really unique environment because it encaptures all of those different species and it creates really diverse and unique ecosystems within the region. And it's really, really interesting when you actually have a look, which is what we'll be doing a bit later on, and having a look at the different I guess, sites and having a look at their different characteristics and how they vary. And even though they're in such a small area, they're so different. It's really, really beautiful. Subtropical reefs live on the edge. And when I say they live on the edge, I mean that they are incredibly vulnerable to human pressures. They are a really, really critical marine habitat. Without our amazing reefs that are in Southeast Queensland and the Gold Coast area, our oceans would not be as they are right now. But they are becoming increasingly impacted by issues such as water quality, over-harvesting or overfishing, human pollution, and climate change. So, how do Australian reefs stack up? I love this graph so much. I think it's really cool. So it's a little bit overwhelming to start with, but I'll run you guys through it. So a little tip here is to focus on the dark blue bars. So the dark blue bars are representative of the Southeast Queensland region as a whole. So that's, like I said, the Sunshine Coast, the Moreton Bay, and the Gold Coast region. You've got your yellow bars, which are the Great Barrier Reef. You've got orange bars of the Caribbean, and the light blue bars are the Indo-Pacific. What we've got along the bottom here is the substrate cover. So substrate cover varies from rock and coral, hard corals and soft corals and sponge and algae and whatnot. And as I said before, they are quite rocky reefs. So you can see here that Southeast Queensland does have quite a high extent of rock as the substrate cover. But if you jump over to the coral section, you can see that Southeast Queensland doesn't have as much hard coral as the Great Barrier Reef, but that's okay. But we do have a higher amount of hard corals in Southeast Queensland than at the Caribbean. And that to me is just like a really, really awesome summary of just how amazing these ecosystems that are quite literally in our backyard are. People pay thousands of dollars to go to the Caribbean and go to their amazing pristine reefs, which I still would do. But I don't think we really realize or appreciate just how diverse and amazing systems that we have in our backyard are. So this is a really cool graph. If you have a look at the soft coral here as well, you can see Southeast Queensland has just a little bit higher than the Great Barrier Reef, but significantly higher than Indo-Pacific and Caribbean as well, which is really cool. Similar to sponges, and you've got your nutrient indicator algae and whatnot. So this graph really, really sums up just how amazing and diverse our ecosystems and our reef systems are in Southeast Queensland and the Gold Coast. It's really awesome. You can tell I get really excited about it. And if that graph doesn't do it for you, then I hope that these photos will. So these photos were all taken in Southeast Queensland. These first 3 photos were taken off Majimba Island on the Sunshine Coast, which is actually my hometown. So I'm really, really proud to say that we have such beautiful reefs quite literally right there. And then this was in the Moreton Bay region. So really beautiful environments. If graphs don't really show information for you guys, I hope that you understand how diverse and beautiful these ecosystems are through these photos. It's really awesome. Cool. So just a bit about the Gold Coast reefs now. We've talked about the Southeast Queensland, and now we're going to go into the Gold Coast. So Reef Check Australia has been participating in conservation activities on the Gold Coast since 2007. So it's been a while, which is really awesome. We've done a lot of monitoring across a few different sites, which I'll go into a bit later. And we are actually the only program consistently documenting long-term reef health on the Gold Coast, which, if you guys reflect back into that illustration that I showed earlier on in the presentation about the importance of long-term reef health monitoring, I think this is a really powerful statement. It shows that, you know, we do need support and we do need to continue this monitoring. Otherwise, we will have no idea how healthy our reefs are. And this data, the importance of this data, that I'll be going through this a bit later in this presentation. It'll really highlight how awesome what the data that we collect is. The Gold Coast Reefs, just a bit of a summary. We have 8 sites across the Gold Coast. So Cook Island, technically it's in New South Wales, but we still include it as the Gold Coast. And then we've got the Gold Coast Seaway, Kira Reef, Narrow Neck Reef, Palm Beach Reef, which we actually have 2 sites on, and I will be talking a bit more about them later on. Palm Beach Reef, Artificial Reef, Wave Break Island, and Wave Break Island, sorry, that's all of them. You can see on these maps, it extends for quite a long time down the Gold Coast, and then you hit that New South Wales border where Cook Island is. I have mentioned this before, but I'm going to talk about it a little bit more in detail about why I keep mentioning it, with the fact that the Gold Coast reefs have a high abundance of rock and silt. So in comparison to the rest of Southeast Queensland, they do have quite a low coral cover, but that isn't necessarily a bad thing. Rocky reefs are really, really, really important ecosystems and reef systems in our marine environment. They create refuge for juvenile and small fish and other benthic organisms. They act as a surface for the colonization of really important sponges, algae, and invertebrates. And all of this creates a really, really productive and healthy marine environment. So even though we do have less coral cover found in the Gold Coast, it doesn't mean that it's any less healthy. It just means that it's a different kind of ecosystem, a different kind of reef ecosystem. And there's a little illustration, I guess, of the rocky reef at Palm Beach that can be found. Cool. So if we go into, so just for a bit of context, every year Reef Check Australia releases they release a yearly report, essentially, and that's done by region. So the Southeast Queensland region, we've just released one on our 2019 and 2020 survey findings. It's a really awesome thing. You guys can find it online if you want to have a look, a bit more detailed look into it, but I'll be summarizing some of the results that we found for the Gold Coast from this report. So the one thing that a lot of people think about when they think coral reefs is the abundance of corals and coral bleaching. I have only selected one site to talk about today. I selected Palm Beach purely because it has the highest coral cover across all the sites. Like I said, it's quite a rocky reef ecosystem, and so there are some that have the smaller amounts, but this is really reflective of those sites that do have quite a larger quantity of coral cover. And it's a really great reflection on that long-term data that we've collected. So we've been monitoring this site since 2007, which is really great because we are able to understand on a long-term scale how our coral reefs are looking. And it's also quite a good reflection on the reef systems of the Gold Coast. So spoiler alert, we have found coral bleaching at Palm Beach. You can see that in this image here, where all those white little parts of the coral are there. So yeah. Anyway, I've got another graph for you guys. So I've tried to split this up into something that's quite simple and easy to understand. So we've got from 2007 to 2021, which is actually really new data. This data was only collected last month, which is really awesome. We've split it up into sections of your hard coral, your soft coral, and then your bleached coral. I guess starting with hard coral, we have seen Generally speaking, there obviously is some fluctuations in this data, but we have seen a pretty evident decrease in cover of hard coral throughout the years. So we have had some really great increases. We started pretty high in 2008, 2015 across site 2 showed a really high result, which is really awesome. But generally speaking, over the years, we have seen that downwards trend. Soft coral is quite similar. There is a bit of fluctuation, which is quite normal within scientific data, but we have seen, I guess, varying levels of it. In 2021 has definitely decreased significantly. If you have a look at that, just over here, you can see that it's probably the lowest that it's been ever since we started surveying in 2007. And then bleaching events. So we have had 5 major bleaching events since 2007. You can see that the first one, and then in 2011, 2015, and 2021 English, 2021. So unfortunately, 2021 has shown the biggest bleaching event that we have seen so far. It's across both sites, which we haven't seen in the past few years. So I guess this is just a really good representation of how our ecosystems are changing, and how we do have an impact, and I guess ways that we need to start thinking of ways that we can start preserving these reefs, because we have this data now and we know what's happening and we're able to understand on a long-term scale what's going on. And so we can see that, there definitely is a couple of issues occurring on this reef, but now it's time that we need to get motivated and to start looking into what we can actually do to start preserving these reefs. Anyway, I've got some really great news for everyone here. So during our surveys, Reef Check Australia found absolutely no signs of coral disease at any of the Gold Coast reefs, which is really, really awesome. Coral disease can be spread through a multitude of factors. They've actually found a really interesting new thing that's come out, is that they've found that coral disease can be transferred via plastic pollution. So that's really interesting, and I guess it's just another threat that our reef faces, but the Gold Coast reefs are staying strong and have no disease, which is awesome. There was also no evident anchor damage, which is really, really great, because that is a sign that everyone's kind of being respectful and understanding that there is a marine ecosystem down there, and I guess being careful of where they anchor. So that's a really good positive as well. I have added a couple of photos of just a few of the different sites, just to show everyone what's actually down there. So all of these photos were taken during our surveys when we were collecting that reef health data. This is Palm Beach. So this is the site that we just discussed that had a bit of that coral bleaching and a bit of that decrease in reef health. I just wanted to mention quickly the abundance of anemones. So I will go into this a bit more, but there is quite a few anemones here. Just remember that for the rest of my presentation. And then you've got Cook Island, which is, like I said, not quite the Gold Coast, but it's still kind of there. This is quite a rocky reef with, your acropora corals, a couple of soft corals and whatnot. So this one's generally one of the sites that does have a bit more coral cover than the other ones. And then you've got Kura Reef, which is a complete turnaround. So one of the rocky reefs that have a bit more of your seagrasses and algae cover, and similar narrow neck reef is the same. I think I chose these 4 different sites because the first 2 were quite similar, and then these 2 were quite the same. And although they are in quite a similar region, they are so different. And this is a really awesome representation of that transition zone between your tropical, subtropical, and temperate regions, and how we can have such an amazing diverse range of reefs literally within such a small amount, like a smaller area. It's really, really beautiful. There's some really diverse ecosystems down in the Gold Coast. And then we've got Wave Break Island. So this is, generally speaking, one of the sites that has a bit more human impact. But yeah, once again, quite rocky, and a little bit less coral cover than the usual. Cool. Now this is my favorite part. I had so much fun making these slides and going through all this data. So the secret is the best part. I have some really awesome news about the organisms that are at the Gold Coast reefs, especially with our findings that we got for the 2019 and 2020 surveys. So across all Southeast Queensland sites, Palm Beach, that reef that I was talking about that saw a bit of coral bleaching, and we had that graph up. So that site, Palm Beach, recorded the most urchin and anemone abundance in all of Southeast Queensland. So all of the Moreton Bay region, all of the Sunshine Coast, and all of the Gold Coast. This one site in the Gold Coast had, urchins are cool, but the fact that there was such a large anemone abundance, I just think that's amazing. So if you refer back to that photo where I mentioned all those anemones, you know, it's just a really, really rich ecosystem, and it's really quite a special, quite a special area. So I definitely check it out if anyone has the ability to. Another thing that is really exciting is the fact that we recorded absolutely no crown of thorn starfish at all on the Gold Coast, and that is really awesome as well. I am very excited for that result. So for the people who don't know what crown of thorn starfish are, essentially they're a species of starfish that they don't have many predators, and they have a very strong liking to eating coral and are posing a very big risk to our reefs. So they are quite a big issue up on the Great Barrier Reef. I know that they have, my partner, in fact, went out with Parks, the Marine Parks crew, and it was last year, I think, and they went out on a boat for 10 days and targeted one area of reef. And no, sorry, it was just a week. It wasn't 10 days. And in that week, they were able to euthanize over 60,000 crown of thorn starfish. And this was in one very small area. And the reef there was apparently really dead. So the fact that they can only go out for a week and get that amount of starfish, I guess that's a reflection on just how serious the issue is. So the fact that the Gold Coast has recorded absolutely no crown of thorn starfish, it's really, really awesome news. So go Gold Coast. And of course, there were some really awesome and rare animals recorded during our surveys. So we've got wobbegongs, seahorses, turtles, octopus, moray eels, and so many more. I got really excited putting the slides together, so I have so many photos for you guys, so just bear with me. So this first photo here is a beautiful wobbegong found out at Cook Island. Camouflaged a little bit, but hopefully you guys can see my cursor and see that he's just chilling out on a little rock. We have a really cute frogfish. He was found at the Gold Coast Seaway Pipeline site. So yeah, he was really cute. You can see his little hands poking out there. He's adorable. We have some amazing seahorses found at the Gold Coast Seaway as well. Awesome animals. I don't think I need to describe to you guys every time how cool these animals are. We found a lionfish at Palm Beach Reef. We've got some awesome moray eels, really cool photos. So you can see these two little heads poking out there. We've got a pencil urchin, which is one of the 3 species that were most abundant in the Gold Coast reefs. And then you've also got some beautiful corals as well, which is very exciting. A little nudibranch. I'm not going to try and pronounce the right scientific term for that because I have no idea. And maybe Julie will be able to help you, but I don't definitely know, I can't. He was found at the Gold Coast Seaway. Nudibranchs are little sea slugs. They're really awesome. They have very eccentric colors and are a really cool indicator of a healthy reef. So that's really nice to see there. And then we got some turtles at Palm Beach. Some octopuses at Wave Break Island. So you can see these 2 little guys hanging out here and here, which is really nice to see. And so many more. I could talk to you guys and share photos of these amazing organisms that live within these reef ecosystems for a very long time, but I probably shouldn't. So I hope you guys enjoyed a little rundown of all the cool animals that are in your backyard. Hopefully, if you guys ever get out there, you'll be able to see them for yourselves as well. Anyway, so some bad news again, sorry. So Reef Check Australia found a really significant abundance of human pollution in the Gold Coast and Southeast Queensland. In fact, the highest recording of fishing line in all of Southeast Queensland was found at the Gold Coast Seaway. And this hasn't been a one-off occasion. This has actually been quite common that we've found throughout the years. So I think there's definitely a really, really big improvement that we can make in the Gold Coast Seaway. I know a lot of the photos that I just showed you of like the seahorses and the nudibranch and a lot of those awesome marine animals were actually in this Gold Coast Seaway. So I think that adds a little bit of extra, urgence to the fact that we need to realize that we're having a really large impact on these ecosystems and the health of these ecosystems, and the fact that we've consistently found marine debris and fishing line in these areas. I think that's a sign that, we can always do better. And here's just a couple of photos of our findings of marine litter in these areas. So if I was to summarize to you guys, I guess in one sentence, everything that I've just said, is that we are incredibly, incredibly privileged to have some of the most diverse and spectacular and abundant reefs and marine ecosystems quite literally in our backyard, not in the Great Barrier Reef, not in the Caribbean, but right down on our doorstep. And with that comes the duty to protect them. And I'm not just saying the duty for the people who have, committed their career to working in marine conservation, or people who find this really interesting and really love the ocean. It's every single one of us have a duty to protect them. And whether that be a big scale, like committing your career to doing it, or a small individual scale, we are all responsible. So that leads me to a couple of things as to what you can do. Now, some of you who may know me, I can never miss an opportunity to talk about plastic pollution. So I have added, one of my first actions is to change your habits. I won't go into this for too long because I know I can talk about it all day, but changing your habits on a really small scale for you will make a really, really large impact to our world. So simple things that don't really change your lifestyle, like using containers instead of Glad wrap, or switching to brands of shampoo and conditioner bars instead of plastic bottles, really small things like that will actually make such a big difference to the health of our reefs. So I've added a couple of zero waste tips here that won't change your lifestyle, but will help save our reefs. And I hope that after today, everyone will just start to think about these actions that we can take, and how easy they are, and maybe implement them. So the first one, I know I mentioned this before, is to change to your shampoo, conditioner, and moisturizer bars. This is just a little hint based on my personal experience. I find that Ethique and Lush do some really great, affordable and accessible zero waste beauty products. We're not affiliated with these companies. This is just from my own research. Changing to laundry sheets instead of detergent. I don't think many people know about these, but these laundry sheets are amazing. They're like little pieces of paper, but they're detergent, and you just pop them in with your clothes. They make absolutely no mess. They're far more convenient. And they're really cheap and plastic free. So just search Space White or True Earth. There's some really good companies. Bring your own coffee cup. I don't think I really should have to say this, but I know a lot of people still don't. So I'm just going to say it again to remind everyone. Bringing your own coffee cup is a really, really easy way to reduce your plastic pollution. I mean, if you get 3 coffees a day, that's a really large amount of plastic already that you're just throwing away into landfills. So you can easily just reduce that in such a large scale level. This is going to reduce Australia's 1 billion non-recyclable coffee cups going into the environment every year. So if everyone just put a little bit of effort in and bought their own keep cups, we wouldn't be having this issue. And stocking up on essentials at bulk food stores. There's actually 12 local bulk food stores on the Gold Coast. You just need to search them and they'll pop up. Bulk food stores are a really good way of, buying in bulk. But you can bring your own glass jar to a lot of them, stock up on your rice, your flour, your pasta, and you'll be supporting a local business while you're doing that, which is really awesome. And making responsible decisions according to the waste hierarchy. So I'm not sure if anyone's really seen the waste hierarchy before. It's something that's definitely being only brought up in the media now. Essentially what it is we've always been told to reduce, reuse and recycle, but not many people know that it's actually in that order for a reason. So our priority is to reduce our waste, to reuse our waste, and recycling and landfill is kind of down towards the end. I know a lot of people who tend to justify waste, excess waste usage on recycling. I'm not going to go into it too much, but just a little hint if you want to educate yourself a bit more on these issues. Research the Australian recycling crisis. Just chuck it into Google and you'll find some really valuable information to know where your recycling waste actually ends up in Australia. And then just can remember this waste hierarchy about avoiding and reducing before anything else. Educating yourself and others. Now, this really, really ties in with what Reef Check is all about. And congratulations, everyone here is already halfway there. You've taken the time out of your day, especially on Origin night. Thank you guys for coming. I promise it'll be done soon, so you can go watch straight on Origin. But you're halfway there. You've already educated yourself. And now I challenge you to educate 5 more people on something you've learned from this presentation. If we all go off and educate 5 more people, we will create this amazing network of education and knowledge, and then that will expand into an even bigger network. And being able to have that ability to voice our knowledge is something that's really, really important. And yeah, so I hope you guys just consider that and just go off and tell someone, even if it's something as small as, the fact that you can buy laundry detergent sheets now, something as small as that can make a really, really big change. And get involved, become a part of the Reef Check Australia team. So like I said, I became a Reef ambassador. You literally do not have to have any experience in marine conservation or any experience in anything really, just a positive attitude and be willing to, get involved and try and make a difference as much as you can. By doing that, we do have a training course. It's now online. We just had ours in May, so I think our next one will be in 6 months. Just jump online and all of the details will be there. You can also become a survey diver, so help us with that data collection that I talked about earlier on in the presentation. It's a really cool way if you have your diving certificate to get in the water a bit more and help collect some really, really valuable long-term reef health data. And then you can also become a cleanup diver. You don't just have to be a scuba diver, you can be a snorkeler, and you can also help us with our cleanups on the land as well. So just get involved in any way that you can, I guess. All of the info is on our website. So if you guys are keen to join in, just jump online. And if you don't have time to do that, that's okay. Like and follow and share our stuff on social media. It's actually kind of an under, I guess people don't really realize how big of a difference they can make just by a follow or a like or a share. We do have a newsletter that you can sign up to that gets sent to you by email every month, which is amazing. And if you are feeling generous, any donations would always be really, really appreciated. Without our volunteers and donations, we won't be able to continue the things that we do. And if you're keen to know anything more about what I've talked about, just head over to our website. Like I said, there's some amazing resources, and we've also got that 2019 and 2020 yearly report. Cool. Now, I think Julie may have a couple of questions for us.
Yes, thanks, Gina. That was awesome.
Okay.
So here's a question. I'm not sure I know the answer to this one either.
Oh.
Erica says, you guys probably heard about the stony tissue loss disease outbreak in Florida and Caribbean, do we have any of the susceptible species in our reefs? I have not read that report. Have you?
No, I haven't either, unfortunately. Sorry.
No, I'll have to look into that one and get back to you.
Yeah, absolutely. If you just want to maybe send Julie your email and we can look into it and then email you.
Yeah, we can have a check out what which species they are.
Yeah, absolutely. That would be really interesting.
Yeah. And then Dan wants to know, do we know why the hard and soft corals appear to be declining over time in southeast Queensland? So I think I can probably answer this one for you, Gina. Not all of the hard corals in southeast Queensland and soft corals are declining. It's just that one particular site at Palm Beach. And I don't know why it was so low this time. I know that I was on the last survey dive and conditions were pretty awful. And we didn't have awesome visibility either, so we couldn't really have a good look around. We don't have fixed survey markers to start from. We go from GPS points, so each time we do a survey, it may be off 5 meters from the last one. And when you've got sparse coral cover, that can make a bit of a difference. But we don't have any permits to put in permanent starting locations. But hopefully it will recover and it's not a continual decline at Palm Beach. I hope that answered your question, Dan. Ella wants to know how you euthanize a crown of thorns.
It's the last time I checked, they have a vinegar substance, and they kind of so they get the crown of thorn starfish and they inject it with it's vinegar and something, and then because starfish, if you just cut them up, they'll just reproduce and triple. So yeah, they just pick them up, euthanize them with a special substance, and then that works apparently, which is pretty interesting.
Yeah, it's actually really good. I know that I did a study on some crown of thorns when I was at uni. Yeah. And they had a couple of different substances they were using that had very limited shelf life and were quite difficult to mix up. And then someone worked out the good old vinegar just as well, which is really awesome.
Yeah, which is really interesting, isn't it? And cheap, which is great.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the only questions we've got up there. So I'd like to, and Yvonne says, thank you for the awesome presentation, interesting, and we love your style and your enthusiasm, Gina. So that's amazing. Thank you, Yvonne. That's really great. So I hope that's given everybody a bit of an idea on what's out there. And the Seaway is an amazing site. It does get a lot of fishing line, as Gina said, but there are several groups that go in and keep cleaning it up. So fortunately, we have those other amazing groups that go out and help clean up the fishing line and other litter that appears there. So, okay, so that's it. We'll end for the night, and thank you everybody for coming.
Oh, thank you guys.